it was of another era. It was as if time had stood still. It was like you were still in the 30s or the 40s.
I wonder, did she know how much inspiration she would have given others? I think she probably had an inkling. You'd have to if you were good at that.
I just said, wow, I had never, ever come across a person like this in my entire life.
But she was just camp to be with, you know. Darling, darling, oh, darling.
There was no messing with Aggie. There just wasn't. You know, it was what you saw was what you got.
I thought it was important. I thought she was really an important artist, really important and really special, and an artist that should be treasured. I think.
She had an amazing quality. You could see she was really like an actress when she sang. And for me, that opened up a whole new world, that type of singing. Because before, I was just listening to the melody of music, but I'd never really seen it as a story that you inhabited.
I then remember her. I remember meeting her with Marc Almond. I don't know why. I think he was over here doing a gig or something.
I first saw her on Wogan. She was the musical guest, and I was just absolutely mesmerised by her. I just was drawn to the TV, and I had to watch. And the song that she was doing was fantastic, with this kind of sort of Turkish kind of Balkan sort of backing with the Three Mustafas Three, and I just loved the whole sound of it.
I remember coming out on stage and performing, and looking at the audience who were usually spitting at you or throwing, you know, offal at you, the usual stuff, and I noticed that right in the middle of the crowd was an old woman. Now, she could have been in her 50s then, but, you know, when you're 17 or 18, you think that's really old. But she was wearing all black, a black feather boa, and you could smoke in them days inside. And she had a cigarette holder, and she was smoking and clapping, saying, bravo, bravo.
It was when we were doing the play on the Project Theatre, and I said we shared a dressing table together. She was in a bit of a fluster one night, and I said, what's wrong with the girl? She said, my daughter, Antonia. She's hanging around with this band called the Virgin Prunes. And the other day she came home and her head was shaved. To imagine, she's one of these punks.
I think she was checking out who the boyfriend of her daughter was, and could she approve?
I guess I was about 18 years old at the time. And she said, darling, it's so wonderful to see you. I've heard so much about the Virgin Prunes.
What was incredible was the Virgin Prunes were quite controversial. Like, it was like we would sort of like perform, like we'd never call it drag, but we would dress quite sort of outrageously. Guggi would wear dresses, I would wear dresses, but then we'd remove those and we'd be sort of semi-naked except for pigs' heads on her groin. And she didn't blink. She says, I think you're wonderful. And it was like other people, we were being banned from TV. We weren't allowed to play gigs in normal venues. And she just went, but this is wonderful. Come up for tea tomorrow.
I remember she went in and she got into bed and she called myself and Antonia in, and she said, would you be awfully kind and make me a pot of tea and roll me a joint? There's a little bit of tacky black on the mantelpiece in the kitchen. And I just went, wow. I mean, she was, I guess, 15 or 20 years older than my own parents. And I didn't think anybody over 25 did that.
And then she had to have a little nap. And then she got back up and she said, Gavin, I really want to introduce you to something. And she played me for the first time, Kurt Weill. And
difficult songs. They're not easy. Like, you're not entertaining people for, hey, this song is great. Like, some of them are a bit bitter and weird, and they're all about provoking people, thought-provoking, and making them think. And, they're intelligent songs. And I just think you'd have to be a very unique, strong kind of personality to have gone on that.
Well, I love the melody of them, apart from anything else. But also, I think she had made something of them with her translation. She had, again, kind of made them her own.
I think one of the things that all of these people really liked about her was the fact that she was the real deal. She wasn't adopting, the style of a period. She was that period.
She was full of life was essentially her characteristic.
She had this incredible calmness about her, and this wonderful presence, I think. And she walked out on a stage, and there'd be me on the times I performed live with her. There'd be me kind of nervous and panicking and going, "Oh my God," stage nerves. And Agnes was just taking it in her stride.
I remember her telling me, never, never, never rush onto stage. Just slowly make your entrance. You own the stage.
She still had that authentic voice that only the direct connection will give you in a certain way. It's very rare for someone to be able to recreate a period style without artificiality. And in the way, if you look at who they are, Elvis Costello, Gavin Friday, Marc Almond, Tom Waits indeed, Marianne Faithfull, another person she had some dealings with, I think. They're all people who have their own extremely true, distinctive voice. There's no mistaking any of them for anyone else. They've never tried to be anyone else in their careers. And I think they recognized that in her.
She says, "This is me and I'm not budging." So you learn a lot by that, because a lot of people, the people who are real stay to themselves. It's the people who aren't just sort of flitter out into whatever.
I would say to her, what do you mean it's uncommercial? I mean, what was commercial about Ringelnatz except he was weird, And people kind of liked the fact that he was weird. You've ever made a record yet that has tipped its hat toward the great god of commerciality? Why start now,
She always seemed like a kind of exotic bird, you know what I mean? Like somebody from somewhere not Irish, do you know what I mean?
I think Elvis Costello produced her first album, and it was actually musically produced by Philip Chevron, I think. A brilliant production. It was a fantastic record. I really kind of loved, treasured record, I think. I felt really proud that if I'd been a part of enabling her to make another record, and I wrote another song for her, It Was Me, which was like, behind every kind of successful man, there's a woman, and behind the devil, there's the devil's wife, and one of these kind of mischievous songs that Agnes, and I loved Agnes because if she didn't like a line, she would say so. She'd say, "I really don't like that line. I really think that should be changed to this and that should be changed to that." So she was great that she was able to kind of she'd say that. She'd just say what she thought.
And she told me, she says, "I cannot possibly do this show. I cannot possibly." She put the glasses on too. She said, "I could not possibly do this show." I said, "What is this?" And she points, and I says, "That's a drum kit." I says, "It's horrendous. Remove it immediately." I'd go, "And what is this?" I says, "It's a guitar amp." "Horrendous. Remove it immediately." I says, "All we need is the voice and the piano." And I says, "If there's some cellos or maybe," but she's just like, I said, "I can't." I said, "I have a full show to do." She just stormed off and sat down and had to have a cup of tea. And then she came back. She says, "Okay." And she says, "Now, can you make space?" I says, "Because I cannot be injured during the performance."
Life doesn't create people like that anymore. Like, she went through, had to leave her country, the war was on. There was a lot of loss in her life, and, they both split up with her husband. And it just, like, that was only things I discovered later. And, if you're fascinated with someone, because those kind of songs, you need to have kind of lived life. So drama and upset and pain, it makes sense when you hear how she sang it.
You'd be sort of glued to her storytelling, the way she phrased her songs, the way she'd pull you in. And it was almost like this fairy godmother meets a fortune teller.
She had always made things work by sticking to her own guns and by doing it her way and by working with people who got what it was she did and who weren't trying to turn it into something else that it wasn't.
She made me in some way feel proud to be the person that I was, and I think she made me feel happy to be the person that I was. And there's no doubt about the fact that, I remember at her funeral, I just feeling so honoured and so thankful that I knew her.
Force of nature, you know, but she wasn't easy to fit within the Irish context, you know, because she was a big exotic bird, you know. I mean, she's a huge personality.
She had so much more to give, and it was just such a shame, such a sad thing, I think, when such a treasured, important artist, I think, is lost, because it's something that's lost to us all, you know.
She will always be remembered. A great entertainer. One of the very last of the Dublin characters.
One moment at the end of the funeral, which I will never forget, which was that the women from the local supermarket who worked there came in to catch the funeral. And obviously they were on a work break or something, because they were all still in their supermarket uniforms. And they were standing at the back of the church, so that when the coffin went out, they completely accidentally formed this kind of guard of honour. There were literally three of them on each side of the coffin as it went out through the door. And I thought to myself, well, that's really her. You know, there's everybody here, and the guard of honour is the locals, you know, from the supermarket, who obviously loved her too, you know.
A nightingale is twittering in the hearth. If you have ears, if you disturb the peace, then the police gets very fierce. And in the creases of your blanket there lurks a face. If you have eyes, the jailer shoots you on the chase. If you're a jailbird flying from that place, good luck to him that tries. The perfume of the East lives in a tree, and giant mountains reach to touch the sky. Like mother's lips, a breeze will touch your hand. A dish will taste to you like children's sand. The worries of this world are crushing you, and yet our earth is such a friendly star. Come tell me what it is that's bothering you. You want to be rich? Well, isn't that what you are?